If you've been around in the Linux world for a while, you might know the name Suckless. Maybe you've used one of their tools. Things like DWM, the X11 window manager. Maybe you've used dmenu, for example, as a application launcher, as a generic sort of prompt that you can type things into. Maybe you've used ST, the terminal they make. Their website is a little bit slow, or maybe if you like alternative web browsers, you've made use of Surf. The software is well known for being minimal, arguably to a fault, where you have to go and configure it and modify it with the actual code. There are a bunch of patches that have been made, and you can go and apply these patches, but anything else you want to do is going to require just modifying the C code yourself. So really, you're managing a fork anytime you use one of these tools. But the whole configuring it through code, that's not necessarily part of the philosophy. The philosophy is software that sucks less, at least going by their metrics. Our philosophy is about keeping things simple, minimal, and usable. We believe this should become the mainstream philosophy in the IT sector. Unfortunately, the tendency for complex, error-prone, and slow software seems to be prevalent in the present-day software industry. We intend to prove the opposite with our software projects. Our project focuses on advanced and experienced computer users, in contrast with the usual proprietary software world or many mainstream open source projects that focus more on average and non-technical end users. We think that experienced users are mostly ignored. This is particularly true for user interfaces such as graphical environments on desktop computers, on mobile devices, and in so-called web applications. We believe that the market of experienced users is growing continuously, with each user looking for more appropriate solutions for his or her work style. Designing simple and elegant software is far more difficult than letting ad hoc or over-ambitious features obscure the code over time. However, one has to pay this price to achieve reliability and maintainability. Furthermore, minimalism results in reasonable and attainable goals. We strive to attain minimalism and clarity to drive development to completion. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, recently I was made aware of this, Wayland.fyi, home of Minimalist Wayland Special Interest Group. Many have claimed that Wayland sucks. The goal of this site is to not only promote and make alternative Wayland software which fits the label of minimalist, but also to disprove many of the claims that people make against Wayland. I and the 3 other people that know about this have been referring to this as Suckless Wayland. Wayland, at the very core, is a very simple wire protocol, nothing more. The default implementation sits at around 10,000 lines of code. What is big is what is made on top of it, which usually in mainstream Wayland is some sort of compositor library based around GLES. Bringing in such big rendering pipelines always results in complex, messy systems that are impossible to understand for mere mortals, or a buttload of protocol extensions, which I would argue are important, or an XDG portal, whatever the hell that is. We are offering an alternative. It might not be perfect, but we found omitting modern renderers to be good enough for our workflow. Similarly, much of the insanity around free desktop can be ignored simply by not implementing certain protocols or Wayland features. A list of Wayland.fyi approved software is available at the bottom of the page, and don't worry, we will get to that. Sway is actually a great example of a project that is really big, really complex, and does offer a great reference on how to do things, but from everything I understand about compositor creation, which isn't much, but I'm going off what people have told me who have made compositors, it's a very overkill solution. On that note, wlroots sucks. In fact, the reason so many people claim that Wayland is bad is purely because of this library. What are the issues? Now, I don't necessarily agree with this. However, let's see the argument being made. wlroots depends on EGL, usually provided by Mesa, which makes it borderline impossible to use on a fully static system. How many people does this actually affect? I'm sure there's a couple. But anyone who's considering that probably has the knowledge of how to deal with it. It's big. I will agree, it is certainly big, but that doesn't shy people away from a GNOME or a KDE. brings in a lot of badly designed and overly large protocols. A big reason why wroots has a lot of additional protocols is there is a lot of stuff that didn't make it into core Wayland, even though it should have been there from the start, because I don't know what was going on in early Wayland development, but the people who designed it basically didn't know what a real desktop user wanted. All they knew is what they used, and anything outside of that, no one could ever possibly want that. You want to capture your screen? No. And no one would ever possibly need that. wroots is extremely Linux-centric, hard depends on UDEV and seat management, requires hacks to get working on BSD platforms, and does not work at all on purer BSDs such as NetBSD. This is not actually true. There is some experimental work getting Sway working on NetBSD. It doesn't work out of the box because, yeah, arguably it is designed to be Linux-centric because Linux is Unix at this point. Everything else is kind of like an additional thing. But this isn't impossible, it's just less people are using the BSDs, so less work is being done to make that development happen. wroots is fast-moving and unstable. Hobby projects like DWL are left unmaintained due to developers not being able to keep up with changes. I did talk about the DWL situation maybe about a month ago. They do now have a new maintainer, but this is actually a valid problem, but it's also just a problem all across Wayland, and the reason why is Wayland is still very much in active development. It's not like Xorg, which hadn't really seen changes in about at least 15 or so years. Yeah, there had been updates, there had been patches, but most of that were bug fixes. There hadn't been a massive feature change, a massive architectural change in a very long time. That is now beginning to somewhat change with X Libre, along with the new X11 server written in Zig called Phoenix. But both of those projects are still relatively early on, and it's still going to be a while until there is a massive, separating change. wroots is fairly low level, good for some use cases, a bit of a pain for people to make their own compositors easily, which is why Wayland has a lot less options than X on that front. This I will actually grant you. This is a big part of the reason why I'm happy that things like Mia and Smithy are both available. Obviously, Smithy is Rust, so you gotta learn Rust, and Mia is C++, but both of those, from my understanding, are quite a bit easier to work with and provide a lot more sort of building blocks than what you get with wroots. If you want the most level of control that doesn't involve just doing everything from scratch, wroots is basically the best option you have though. AKA, wroots is certified free desktop slop. I don't know how we get to that point from any of the stuff said here, but sure, we'll go with it. The case of X11. All graphics on Unix are bad. That's because modern Unix is barbaric technology, but X11 is the worst offender of being barbaric. Full X11 stack is millions of legacy lines of code, workarounds, and wasn't even a good design in theory. Have you ever tried to look at its source code? It's best you don't. Essentially, for better or worse, it's not the 1990s anymore. X11 client code often looks simpler because there is a lot that you do not see, nor do you want to, and even more which you will never use. Wayland makes what you do more explicit, rather than relying on crusty abstractions. X11 is the antithesis of small, minimalist software. When you're writing X11 window managers, X11 applications, X11 is doing a lot of things in the background for you. That makes things easier. It absolutely does. But if your goal is minimalism overall, you're just sort of hiding the complexity. Think of it like the Qt library. If you've ever written Qt code, there is a Qt implementation for everything under the sun. Qt is not a GUI library. Qt is its own programming language built on top of C++. There is every possible thing that you have no idea why they even implemented, and it makes things really, really easy to work with. As long as you don't pull back the curtain, because oh my god, misinformation. Ooh, this is the fun one. Often in discussions around Wayland versus X, various weird, wonderful, and incorrect claims appear. This disproves them. You can link directly to any of the sections below. Wayland being composited by default is bad. You will often hear this one. Compositing is not fancy animations or transparency. Now, often when you composite, you also do these things because when you composite, it gives you the ability to do these things. In effect, it usually means drawing just what you need, where you need. X11 compositors are separate from the X server. It runs the client, redirects all windows into off-screen pix maps, and redraws with effects or VSync. On Wayland, there is no unified server. The compositor is the server. It handles all drawing, input management, and compositing the final scene. Although the same word is used, compositing on X and Wayland are not the same thing. There is a case for disabling compositing when we're talking about full screen content, as full screen content wants to be in full control of how things are being rendered, and optionally disabling VSync, which most sane environments now let you do. Wayland and Xorg are similar in any way. Very false. The whole model is fundamentally different. X11 is a network-transparent, unified server with window management and compositing handled by clients. The reason why it's like this is when X11 was first being developed, you wouldn't run the X11 server on the same system that you're actually running the clients. The reason for that is computer time was expensive. You didn't have the ability for every single person to have their own system, so it made more sense to run the clients on a dedicated machine and then render them separately on your X11 terminal. Wayland is not network transparent because it's not 1985. I know this is gonna rile some people up who really love network transparency, but in most cases, people are not running their clients and the server on a separate machine. On Wayland, compositors are the server and handles window management, input handling, etc. On X, clients speak a rich, overcomplicated protocol that tells the server what to draw in the client window. On Wayland, clients simply submit a fully rendered buffer to the compositor. Wayland has built-in security policy, CSD support, something I don't like. Wayland does not have much built in. Probably what has the thing you don't like is a compositor or a compositing library. Wayland once again provides very little, and it's trivial to omit parts you dislike. Although inputs on Wayland are usually only sent to the client they're intended for, oh no, my keylogger, this could also be solved if you so desired. Because the compositor handles all input, it could forward said input to all clients. Now, when people say that Wayland has certain things built in, Wayland supports certain things, it's usually meant as a core protocol. It is something that is widely adopted by Wayland. Wayland, for example, core protocol has CSD support. However, it's basically a standard with the exception of one environment to also support server-side decorations. Now, of course, it wouldn't be like Suckless without some software to talk about. This software is going to be implemented in a sane and portable language, small and hackable codebase, does not rely on WLR or other protocol extensions, and does not have any Linuxisms, and is portable to at least one non-Linux Unix operating system, which is going to be some form of BSD most likely. If you want to check out all of these for yourself, I will link it down below, but I'm just going to show you some fun little highlights. For example, we have a project called Freeway, a simpler lib Wayland, which says it's experimental and not to use it. So that's a great recommendation right there. One really cool project I'm absolutely going to make a video on is Hevel. Hevel takes the idea of a scrolling window manager to its logical conclusion, not just horizontal scrolling. Scrolling anywhere you want. This would get really confusing, but I think it's super cool. We have a decade-old fork of dmenu that added in support for Wayland somewhere along the line. We also have a decade-old fork of the ST terminal, which did the same thing. There is WEV, a Wayland event viewer. This has been around for a very long time and is basically the equivalent of XEV on X11. A lot of the other stuff in here is pretty straightforward, like various little tailing window managers that may or may not be good to use. We have an image viewer, which it's probably fine. There's a clock, there's a menu that is kinda like dmenu, a wallpaper setter, and things like that. Do you know of or made a program that fits our criteria? Have you found a typo? quite a few of those, or formatting issue, or just want to add something, call 1-800-Wayland or send a patch to our mailing list. Honestly, I'm not sure if this is a shitpost or not. I don't think it is, because like they do make some actual good recommendations for the Wayland book, for Wayland from scratch, but I don't know. I actually don't know if this is real. I think it's real. I hope it's real because it's funny if it's real, but I might be getting baited. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think I'm being baited, or do you think there's actually something here? And hey, do you agree with any of the points being made? I'd love to know. If you liked the video, go like the video, go subscribe as well, and if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, Scribes, Daily Therapy, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and suck more.
Like this.